Welcome to the Hollywood Outsider, an award-winning weekly entertainment podcast. In this episode, we are discussing Pixar's recent floppage, why Hollywood and audiences still don't appreciate Stuntpeople, even though they're fantastic, that a movie you might have heard of but probably didn't see, The Flash, and our topic this week, the problem with time travel. Let's get on with the show. Or did we do it already? Can you play a podcast at 88 miles an hour? My name is Aaron Peterson. Joining me today are my fellow host, John Davenport.
I'm going to die, but hi, buddy.
Troy Heinrichs.
There's like notes in the show that specifically say don't use Back to the Future as the reference, and then you make a Back to the Future comment. I don't understand.
I don't know if you know this, Troy, but Aaron sets himself up for all the jokes and gets mad at us when we stomp on his feet.
You know what I don't do? Is I don't wait and cut people off when they're talking to make my joke. I can make it after you finish.
Why? Are you chicken?
Jesus. Well played.
See, Troy, that was another dig at you. I just want to make sure you caught that.
Well played,
I caught
actually.
It.
That was well played. It doesn't matter. He played it well. You know what? And remember, you can always find more information at thehollywoodoutsiders.com. Join our Facebook group, The Hollywood Outsider. We're on Twitter at BuyPopcorn. And you can always share your thoughts on this episode by email or on those social medias. Our email is feedback@thehollywoodoutsiders.com, or we have voicemail 818-814-6246. I wanted to cover those bases. We just got back from the whole cruise on our Patreon episode, which is available, patreon.com/thehollywoodoutsiders. We talked all about the cruise and everything we did on it, but I do want to say thanks to everybody that came, just in case you're not a patron and you're still on the cruise or we're excited about it. It was a great event. We had like 50 people there. It was pretty cool. We didn't have a whole ship, but we had a lot of people on the ship.
Well represented.
Yeah. And I want to say shout out to Stephanie Clark, who was Scott Clark's wife, because it was a monumental birthday for me that happened on the cruise. And she put together a present where it was a collection of my friends and listeners and just people I've met along the way of the journey of this podcast, and movie quotes and pictures with them, and kind of put it into this massive hope chest of memories that was just one of the coolest gifts I've ever gotten. And it's a collection from a lot of people. I know she was the architect, though, so thank you, Stephanie, and thanks to everybody that participated. That was pretty awesome.
That was very awesome. I was very happy to see that she was able to put that together for you. She had the hardest time of finding a picture of you and I together, because
really?
We don't do that.
There was like the whole wedding
It was
picture.
like the whole wedding you guys were at, weren't you?
Yeah. We were together there.
Yeah. There's no picture of just you and me, though.
It's called crop.
Yeah, you can cut people out of it, just like she cut Scott Clark out of her life.
Wow.
That's what happens when you manage the itinerary. Troy's trying not to laugh.
Mid-drink.
I'm just kidding.
Saved it.
Just kidding. That was an easy joke. Thank you, Stephanie. That was fantastic. Like, sincerely, that was fantastic. So what other things going on? What's going on? Like, we talked about the cruise 2 weeks in a row. We talked about it on the Patreon. We don't need to go back to that. So what is new with you guys? What do you want to talk about? Is there anything in movie and TV news that you came back to and you're like, what? Treat Williams passed away. How about that one?
That's a real shame.
It's a shame.
Okay.
It's a real shame. Like he's one of those actors who never really made it huge, but when he was on something, he elevated it somehow. And just seeing, I didn't even realize he was in Star Wars. That was something that I thought was pretty impressive.
For like a blip. So it wasn't like he was in Star Wars. He was in Star Wars.
All right. I mean, still.
It was like Dan Aykroyd was in Temple of Doom. It was like there, but you didn't even realize it.
Oh, I realized that, my friend. I realized that.
I remember Treat mostly from Everwood. I spent a lot of time with that show, and I thought he did a great parental guidance, also doctor in the town kind of character. He was like TV dad before, we got Coach.
God, he was my low budget Harrison Ford for a lot of movies. He did, was it Deep Rising?
Yep.
That one was a lot of fun. And what was the one with Joe Piscopo? Dead Heat. I think it was Dead Heat.
Dead Heat, yeah.
I love that movie. Absolutely love that movie. And I can't tell you it's good because it's not, but I absolutely love that movie.
Was the one with
it's terrible.
Michelle Pfeiffer and Whoopi Goldberg too? The ocean deep something of the deep end of the ocean.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. That one I don't know off the top of my head, but it sounds familiar.
Let's not forget he was the villain in Phantom.
Oh, or we could forget it. We could.
He was kind of amazing in that as far as like really bad acting is concerned.
Maybe they could connect the Phantom and Deep Rising because he's in Deep Rising, and Billy Zane was in Titanic. No, I'm doing a Kevin Bacon thing. That doesn't make any sense. But maybe Treat Williams like took the jet ski out of the Titanic into the Phantom, where Billy Zane was, because he also escaped Titanic because it was around the same time frame, year-wise. No?
No.
Okay. No. I tried. Anything else big? I heard that people are freaking out because Gal Gadot confirmed she's no longer Wonder Woman, except she never did confirm that. That's actually not true whatsoever. And then people the next day were like, oh, she didn't actually confirm that, and actually now she's hinting that she will be Wonder Woman. She hasn't said that either. So she just said that there's things going on, and you'll know when you know. That's what she said.
That's exhausting.
Isn't it?
It really is. It's an article that you really couldn't get away from. There was a couple other articles involving the Flash that you really couldn't get away from. So that movie's been spoiled for me now, which is fine because I'm in a weird mood when it comes to the movies that are in the theater at the moment. But yeah, it's like people who are just looking for news that isn't news.
How about this? So we had a conversation earlier. This is, I think, an interesting topic. So Troy was talking about Patrick Stewart was looking at doing a Star Trek Generations movie.
Yeah, there was an interview with him and LeVar Burton.
Yeah, and he'd like to do this Generations movie, which, yeah, I get it. Next Generation movie. I get it. I mean, he's an actor, wants a job. That's like a big deal these days where anytime an actor says he would like to do something, it becomes like a huge article or a piece. And I want to know what you guys think about it, because I find it super annoying because people use that to quote as something's in the works, or actors are using that to try to generate their interest in their own selves. James Gunn actually just referred to this on a recent podcast, which I thought was fascinating, where he admitted that actors do this. They play this game. They try to hype themselves up for a part so they can get the part. And what do you guys think about that? Because I think we're basically feeding trolls at this point. I think all of that is just the troll media network of sorts.
Yeah, I think part of me is like, there are certain people and actors with certain properties that I think has earned the right to speak their mind on what they would like to see from their characters and their franchises. I would think Patrick Stewart would fall into that category because he is Picard. I mean, when you talk Star Trek, you used to talk Kirk, to a certain generation. For another generation, the next generation, it is Picard. Like Picard's name is like Picard, right? I think there's other people that just shut the hell up, like Barry and a few others of those type. It's hard because you want to keep, it's the old adage of, there is no such thing as bad news, just spell my name right, because it keeps the concepts in the news cycle and keeps the ability for the institutions to have a pulse on whether or not that brand is still have value. So it serves its purpose in the marketplace. However, when I, as a consumer of information, go out to the internet, if it's not a well-known established entity, then I just go like, oh, that's cool, and move on. But like if Variety reports on it, or Hollywood Reporter, or Entertainment Weekly, or Deadline, or somebody, then it's like, oh, well, this must be like worthwhile news because a worthwhile news outlet is actually reporting on it.
And it should be. And it has held that way for many, many years. But I am seeing more of that creeping into those kind of outlets too, which is kind of...
They're losing clicks to other people, so they're trying to make up for that.
It's really disappointing, man. Like really disappointing.
Yeah, how convoluted the internet is making everything is starting to disappoint me, because you never really have any sort of control over who says what or what's going to happen or any of those other things. It just gets spilled out, and then the outcome is whatever the outcome is. have the energy to filter out news stories that aren't worth my time. So I just read less and less news stories because I don't know if it's anything that's worth reading about. I don't know if like this person, like the whole Gal Gadot thing. Gal Gadot dropped this whole hint that she's not returning. But then again, no, she didn't. But then again, then she is. And so
but she didn't do either one of those things. Like she really didn't. She did the second one where she hinted there might be something coming. But the first time and the only reason she did that is because people were saying that she said that she confirmed that she wasn't doing it. And she never did that. She never did that. Never happened.
Is that any different than a star saying, I'd be really interested in doing this? I don't think it is any different because
I think it is because she is part of that world already. That's not the same thing as Mark Hamill wants to be the next Indiana Jones. That I don't think that's the same thing.
Let's do it. I'm in.
I still think that as far as publishing a news story for the sake of clicks is what's getting us all really in trouble.
Sure.
It's not necessarily about what they're saying. It's the chance of whatever it might be. And there's no vetting. There's no checking. There's no any of those other things as far as what is the viability of this thing. It's, so-and-so says this, then that's, and then it's, if enough people like it or read it or push for it, then it becomes written in stone. And that, on one end, it's mobilizing the internet to back you up and to make things happen for you, which I think we have seen before it became a thing. We have seen that work, i.e. Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool.
True.
But
that's true.
Yeah, where, but it's just, it's out of hand at this point. It's not real news.
It's way out of hand.
And it's really what was like the demise of Twitter, because Twitter, for me, when it first came out, was the replacement for what was called the RSS newsreader, because a lot of websites didn't know how to do RSS feeds and set them up properly,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get duplicates in your collector or whatever it was that you were, feed burner or whatever it was that you were trying to scrape that stuff down from. So it's much easier to say follow Deadline, follow Entertainment Weekly, and make that a list, and then you only went to the list because then you didn't have the noise coming in because you said follow a topic like, Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, and then you would get all this other noise in there. You could curate what you needed to follow in order to get the accurate information. And then Twitter went to hell. So
Twitter went fast. All right, let's go to some movie and TV talk. So everybody's talking about the Flash flopping.
I didn't say my one thing, though.
What one thing?
You said that what was the one thing? I never got to say my one thing.
I thought you just got done talking. I assumed you were done with your one thing.
No, we were just wrapping up the other part.
Okay, what's your one thing?
Strange New Worlds came back. We were on the cruise ship, and Strange New World Season 2 dropped on Paramount Plus.
Where did that come from? What does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, no, Troy.
You mean recommendations? That's later in the show.
No, I'm not recommending it.
Where's my rolled up newspaper for Troy?
Okay.
You said what was the one thing that happened while you were gone? You came back. That was the top of the show.
Oh my God. All that, and you had, okay. All right. Great. Good.
He even gave you your article. He even found a way to give you your article, and you had to sit there and do this.
Jesus. All right, movie and TV talk. We're moving on. Everybody's talking about Flash flopping, right? But I want to talk about Elemental shitting the bed. Pixar has had flop after flop after flop the last few years. And I guess you could say, well, Bob Iger's back, so maybe that'll change. I don't think it will immediately. But I want to know, do you think, Troy, you're the biggest fan I know of Pixar. Are they done as a hit maker? What is going on at Pixar? What are your thoughts?
I cannot speak to this. I have not seen the film. I'm going tomorrow night.
We're speaking just to Pixar, not to, why aren't they making hits anymore? Why aren't people going to their movies anymore? That's what we're talking about.
They're making hits perfectly just fine.
They're not. They're flopping. That's the whole point. That's literally the whole point. They're flopping.
Listen, Onward came out in the month that the pandemic hit. Okay. So therefore Onward never got a fair shake. Soul is a fantastic movie. The problem is it never went to theaters because it was a pandemic.
Okay. Can we time out for a second?
Yeah.
Timing out for the second. And I want to point out that Aaron isn't talking about whether or not they're making good movies or bad movies. What Aaron is talking about is that they aren't making the kind of money they used to make. So regardless of whether or not they're good or bad movies, that's what Aaron wants to have a conversation about.
Yes, that's all I care about.
But nobody is making the money that they used to make before, unless you're Marvel.
They have not had a hit since Toy Story 4. Since Toy Story 4.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm
Onward
aware.
came...
I wrote the review for Luca. It sucked. It was terrible.
But once again, this is quality. Don't care about quality. I'm talking about Lightyear, flop. Elemental, flop. Turning Red, they put it on Disney Plus because they didn't expect that one to do well. Luca didn't do well. Like, these movies haven't done well. And I'm curious, do you think the magic of Pixar as an enterprise is done? Because it seems like audiences have. Not quality, the money. People aren't going to see it.
The answer is I don't know, because I have not seen Elemental, which I feel is the first movie that has actually been truly post-pandemic. And yes, it didn't make a lot of money in its first weekend out, but neither did Ratatouille. And then Ratatouille became a hit over time because people talked about it and said, hey, this is actually really great. You should go check it out. It's not as stupid as you think it is with a rat controlling a human. There are some just bad stories initially that get marketed poorly. Brave is a great example. Brave was marketed the worst possible way, because when you went to go see Brave and actually find out what it's actually about, it's a completely different movie than what it was marketed as. And then the word of mouth spread and it became a better thing. So with Pixar, I think it's all about quality and not about the money. So is this going to be a quality movie eventually? It could be. I haven't seen it yet. But everything else that's happened prior to this was literally dealing with, we need to make stuff to get on Disney Plus as quickly as possible because we have the streaming service in a pandemic. So I think some of that quality suffered because of that.
Not true, because most of those movies had been worked on for multiple years. Luca, Soul, Onward were already in progress and we're already well underway. It takes 4 or 5 years to make an animated movie. You know that. You know how long it takes. So that's not the case. And so... John, Troy's avoiding the question. I'm going to have to bring you in here. I'm going to have to bring in a sub hitter.
All right.
I think the biggest thing is that it's leadership at Disney in this era, to be honest. And it's great that Iger's back, because The Good Dinosaur was shit. They literally redid The Good Dinosaur in like a year and a half. And the product that actually got aired was actually much better than what was going to air, because the execs at the time basically said, you're not putting this movie out. So I truly think that there's people that are now being run, at the time was run by more financial people rather than content quality people. Now that Iger's back in place, the CFO is already on their way out. We saw that article this week in the news. So they're going to make some changes that I think will make a big difference in content delivery.
The example you just gave about execs coming in and changing the whole story, you can say that about just about any sort of Disney cartoon that's ever been made. Take a look at The Emperor's New Groove. That was 4 different stories before we got what we got. So that's not part of what the question is in this current conversation. The question is whether or not we think that Pixar is done making hits. And I don't think that's the case. What I think is that Troy did touch on something that I agree with, which is that in this era of not having a mainline ability to stream commercials directly into the brains of children, like we used to in the 80s, 90s, and most of the 2000s and early parts of the 2010s. Because more and more people are moving to streaming services as opposed to having like a cable service in their house anymore, where they have all these commercials coming in at them, that we're running into a problem where a lot of companies haven't figured out how to market to the populace. So I find that with a movie, with a lot of the scores that the movie we're talking about, in particular, Elemental, the exit score is pretty high. The critic score is pretty high. So as far as speaking to the quality, which is what Troy really wanted to get after, the quality seems to indicate that the quality of the movie is pretty good. So why, if it's a good quality movie, why don't people seem to care? Well, it's either a problem of IP recognition, or it's a problem of marketing. And I would like to lead more towards marketing, but there's also the chance that IP recognition, because we don't seem to be wanting to go to the movies unless we recognize what the product is. But that isn't a good argument either, because The Flash is something that has IP recognition and people didn't go to as much. Now that is a lot of turmoil in its own story.
Yeah, I'd make a case against that, but
and the fact that every Pixar movie is a non-IP, every single one.
Right.
Well, not the Toy Stories, not the Cars sequels. There are sequels. There are franchises.
The sequels aren't, but the original was never an IP. Well, it wasn't an IP.
The thing is that we're in a period where even IP products are suffering. So a lot of the Marvel movies are suffering. They're not either A, the quality isn't good, or B, people aren't going to even those as much as they used to.
That's oversaturation.
Whether or not, I still think that we're living in an era where a lot of companies just do not know how to market to us because of the way we can build our entertainment or our home entertainment in a way to avoid marketing now.
I also feel like personally, Disney has really damaged their brand because those movies were must-see event films, right? And I get they had to pivot because of the pandemic and whatnot, but I think they pivoted too much, or they pivoted too hard. They made things exclusive when blockbusters were still making money in a theater. Or that they were coming back and they were finally coming back around, and they still avoided it. Turning Red, potentially, maybe it could have had some effect at the box office. Soul, I think, definitely could have had some effect at the box office. Even though, it was a rough time at that time, I think it could have done a little better if the marketing was right and everything had went a little bit more according to plan. And the windows are a little shorter for Disney, so families are like, why would I want to go spend $40-$50 to take the whole family to see a movie that's going to be available on Disney Plus in a matter of 30 days? Why am I going to do that? Where Super Mario came out, and yeah, you got brand recognition for sure, but on the same token, it's not a Disney movie, so nobody has that idea of it's going to be on digital streaming service I already have in a matter of time. I think Disney needs to reestablish some longer windows on their films, some release windows, which is for people listening, and that's the time from when a movie's in the theaters to the time that's available on home video. I think those need to be longer. There's several things that I think they should do, but definitely they've got to extend some windows. They've got to market better, because I agree that the quality hasn't really changed. I just don't think they understand what the audience wants anymore. And I do agree IP is part of it. There's a certain amount of people, especially now that they have so many streaming options, that I'm not going to go spend $60-$70 for my kids too. Not just me, for my kids, to go see something I don't know if it's going to be any good. And Pixar doesn't have a great track record for the last few movies. They really don't.
Yeah, we went to Flash. I mean, Flash was, the Dolby Atmos big screen. So that was $14 a ticket matinee for 3 people. Because it wasn't at an AMC, because we were in Florida. So that's $42 in movie tickets plus $30 in popcorn and drinks. Yeah, $72 for 3 people.
Mm-hmm. And if you're a family and times are tough, this is a tough year in general. For a lot of people, that's a big chunk of coin to be spending on going to the movies and not knowing if you're going to like it. And Pixar's recent track record, plus the idea that it could be on Disney Plus in a month or something. I mean, because they've gotten these windows, they panicked so much during the pandemic. A lot of people panicked so much that they hurt themselves by doing that, and they're still trying to recover. I think they will recover. The box office keeps recovering, but it's really hit Pixar pretty hard. I think they don't have the same brand name that they used to. They used to have, it's a Pixar movie, we got to go. We won't see it necessarily opening weekend, like Troy said. It's got legs, but we got to go. That's not there anymore. I don't hear people saying I got to see it because it's a new Pixar movie. I just don't hear that anymore.
There's also, to maybe the marketing point, right? There's a reason why Apple commands a high price point in the computer industry, right? They don't need to be first. They just need to be the best. And so they live and breathe that mantra. I'm not saying they are the best. I'm saying that's their mantra. They believe that they're better because they wait to be second, right? Second with this, second. They're not doing everything that the Androids make. And you have to remember that, God rest his soul, Steve Jobs was Pixar. Him and Lasseter, those two were really the Pixar machine that drove the culture and the ways of working and how we look at movies and how we look at story and how we look at characters. And then when Disney came and took that over and Steve exited, right, then it becomes part of the Disney machine. We need to make money. We need to have releases. We need to have toys. We need to have park tie-ins. We need to have all this other stuff. And then you lose focus of what made Pixar what it was.
They did pretty well for like 20 years, man. I mean, they were rocking and rolling with Pixar for like 20 years.
Yeah, so. Disney's only recent though in the last 10.
It's only been the last few years that they've really, really suffered with Pixar movies. They've lost their entire brand, I think. Their entirety of their brand. And I don't think it's because of commercialization, because they've done that the entire time. And they made sequels before. They got Monsters, Inc. sequel. They got Incredible sequel. They got Cars sequels. They got, so they definitely, franchise and try to make money that way. But they had a brand that they had the brand like Marvel had. And Marvel's is even waning a little bit. But they don't have that anymore. Star Wars used to have that brand too, where everybody would throw out dollar after dollar to go see their new movie. And now they will wait. Now it could be saturation, could be quality, could be just too much content in general. I don't know. I mean, it's weird because if you really look at it, Pixar is no longer the front runner in the animation world. Even though they might make great movies still, they're not the front runner.
And that might be okay.
That Minions, what is it? It did Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, Illumination.
Illumination, yes. Illumination's kind of leading the pack right now. They're making fun movies.
That might be okay, though. I mean, there's nothing to say like Pixar becomes A24. A24 doesn't have to be...
Wouldn't that be wild?
They don't have to be Paramount or, Universal or what have you. They can just be a studio that does weird, crazy shit.
I don't think Disney is ever going to let that rest. They need kids and dollars. That's what keeps Disney in business.
I think Pixar really started to shoot themselves in the foot personally when they started releasing 2 movies a year instead of just focusing on Father's Day weekend, which was their strategy for many, many, many years. I think that oversaturation, like we're seeing with Marvel being oversaturated and Star Wars being oversaturated, I think that takes away a little bit of the event, like this is the Pixar movie, we gotta go. And I also think that I still really feel that there's this confusion in the Disney space of like, you think of Frozen and like Frozen was so good that had to be a Pixar movie, but it wasn't. It was a Disney Animation Studios picture. So the fact that they have 2 animation brands inside their own walls, I think causes marketing confusion and misunderstanding between what is the Pixar brand, what is the Disney animation brand.
That makes me wonder if Disney is running Pixar into the ground on purpose.
No. They wouldn't bring Iger back if that was the case. I mean, they brought Iger back to get things back on track. I think Bob Chapek didn't know how to really run that studio. That's what I think.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. All right, let's move on.
He didn't have the integration concept that Iger had.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Okay, but Aaron wants to move on.
I sure do. So, Stuntpeople, why are they so seemingly unappreciated by both Hollywood and audiences alike? There was just another lawsuit from... involving a Fast and Furious 9 or F9 or whatever, and the stuntman Joe Watts, who had life-changing injuries sustained, and they're trying to settle this case, and the filmmakers admitted that they were at fault, they made a mistake. So stuntmen obviously I'm just illustrating that they definitely put themselves on the line. John Wick director Chad Stahelski just recently went on the record and stated that he's talked to the Oscars, the Academy Awards, about adding a stunt category, which still doesn't exist so many years after movies began, and all these stuntmen have been injured, and all these other actors have been made to look like heroes and made millions off of the work of other people because the stunts put them on the map, for action heroes and whatnot. And they're still underappreciated in Hollywood. They're still disrespected. They are just as much a part of our fascination with adventure films and action films as the directors, as the stars, as the writers, etc., as the effects people. Yet they do not get the recognition or the appreciation from audiences nor Hollywood. And I want to know, why do you think that is? Do you have why? Can anyone answer me why? I don't get it.
I don't understand it either, because I was even about to say, like, tell me one person who can identify with a makeup artist, or tell me one person who can identify with a production artist or a concept artist.
Well, they're all important job functions from
they
filmmaking.
are, but they are, and it's just that the thing about a stunt actor is they're literally putting their body out there for the rest of the world to see, and often often run into foibles like this, which is just an absolute nightmare for this poor guy. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I don't know what it is beyond the fact that just like a lot of the other production companies that do animation, or the production company that does special effects, with the exception of people who are inside baseball or people who want to do that. Well, no, because Industrial Light and Magic actually gets awards and shit.
Yes, everybody gets awards except stunt people.
Yeah, I just talked myself out of it. So you're absolutely right. It's bullshit.
And TV has a stunt category.
TV has a category.
Yeah, TV has a category. Movies do not. And they haven't. And, Chad Stahelski, I get it. I mean, he was a stunt man, so he's obviously known that this has been deserved for a long time. You go watch a movie. You go watch John Wick 4. Go fucking watch that movie and tell me that there should not be an award for what they've done, what they've managed to accomplish, the pure beauty, the sheer choreography that it takes to make those fight scenes work as fluidly as they do. And people, I'm sure some injuries happen, but overall, very minimal injuries for our entertainment. And they can't have a category to reward those people who did most of that work. Now, granted, I understand the Tom Cruises and Keanu Reeves of the world are out there. There are actors that do their own stunts. They do a wonderful job, but there are things Keanu ain't doing. There are things that even Tom Cruise can't do, because insurance companies say no. But the majority of actors out there are not doing those dangerous stunts, and no appreciation whatsoever. To me, and I get it, it's an award. Who gives a shit? For a lot of people. But I think it's when you have awards for everything else. I mean, I'm surprised they don't have a catering award. But when you have awards for everything else and you don't reward people who literally put their lives on the line for the movies that are made, I find that to be one of the largest insults in Hollywood.
And even in the case of Tom Cruise and
Keanu Reeves.
Thank you. I was like, John Wick.
Whoa.
He is John Wick now.
He is.
There's a team behind them. So even if they're doing their own stunts, there's still choreography and wires and handlers and, green screen people. There's a lot that goes into making the stunt happen.
Practicing it 300 times before they ever do it.
Right. Can you imagine 300 times falling down those stairs?
No, I couldn't.
I recently saw pictures of Tom Cruise at a party with all his stunt people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's insane how they all look like him.
That's the mistake. That's actually not a stunt people. That's what Scientology does. It clones. That's why he's been so invested for so long. The secret is out.
So whenever he starts losing a body part, they just kill one of those poor bastards and get the body part.
Get a new one.
That took a dark turn.
So we're collectively saying, get this done, right? Stop talking about it. Get it done. Just get it done. And
absolutely.
There definitely should be an Oscar for stunt coordination.
I don't understand. Years ago we had Zoe Bell on here, who is a famous stunt person for Kill Bill, but she's also an actress. She's worked with Quentin Tarantino multiple times. She did a great little action movie called Raise. It's an independent movie. And she was on here for an interview for that. And, I talked to her about how unappreciated stunt people are. And she said quite bluntly, I don't understand it, because we literally risk our lives. If you go watch Planet Terror and you watch Tarantino's spot where it's death proof, and she's on that car that whole time risking her life for our entertainment. It's a fantastic scene, but she's doing it. And that kind of thing needs to be appreciated and rewarded. That to me is way more impressive than most acting that I've seen. Honestly, the fact that somebody managed to do some of these stunts and live is extremely impressive to me. I don't care how many precautions you take. Hell, I can't walk out of my house without injuring myself.
That's fucking true.
Okay.
Can't swim in the water without injuring himself.
That's true. I can't. I really.
Oh, actually, he was doing fine in the water. He was moving around. And he was like, "My knee's doing great," and he's all happy and stuff.
Oh, that's right. You're the one that flipper kicked him in the head. It wasn't him swimming into.
Yes, something. My flipper kicked him in the head.
You totally kicked me in the head, and I the more and more we pass from that moment, I'm convinced it was intentional. All right. Well, you know what? Before we move on, we're going to talk about something that John gets really excited about. So hold on to your beers. Buddy Games Spring Awakening, the outrageous comedy of the year, is here. The boys are back to reunite for their biggest challenge yet and to take it back to where it all began, Spring Break. And you can get it now on the Microsoft Store. It's rated R. It's from Paramount Pictures. John, you are a big fan of the first movie. Are you excited that they're making a sequel?
I am shocked and excited about there being a sequel to this. The first one is very much harkens back to the old school dirty comedies of the day, the ones that we barely get anything close to that anymore. And it really was a good time. And it's about a group of friends that are just terrible to each other. And I love the cast in it. I loved everyone I loved everything that happened to the people. And it was just kind of nuts. So I am excited to see what happens with this next one.
It looks like a lot of fun. I'm going to check it out for sure. Now let's go to our From the Outside In topic. Time travel. We're going to talk about some time travel. Now, the last time we talked about time travel in any respect was way back in 2014, other than random bits here and there. So that's a long time ago. I wish we could go back in time and redo that episode, but we can't. So Flash has this heavy focus on time travel and multiverses, but a lot of time travel elements. And I want to know what we think about time travel as a storytelling device. Like, let's start. What are the pluses of time travel? When you're watching a movie or a TV show, either one, just entertainment as a whole, what are the pluses of storytelling and time travel? And Troy, I swear to God, if you tell me all the negatives and then tell me one positive, I'm going to slap you in the face.
I love time travel.
All right.
Time travel is a great idea for storytelling because you can do tons of different things from the let's go back and bring somebody back from the dead. Let's go back and relive this awesome moment and really figure out what was going on. There was a really great concept of using time travel to explore the concepts of mental health and the breakdown of somebody that had a terminal illness. I thought that storytelling mechanism was really great on how they used it.
12 Monkeys?
Not 12 Monkeys. This was actually Undone on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of good conceptual things that you can do. Thinking about the Adam Driver movie with 65 million years, where you think it's actually a time travel movie, but it's actually that person's future, but then our past. And so you can talk about time travel in a different way where there isn't an actual time travel event happening, but you can just story tell the time differences because you're coming at it from a different point of view. Time travel just has a lot of really cool thought because then it's a matter of trying to define the rules of the time travel. And at this point, I think I've seen every rule under the sun, which I learned two new rules of possibility through Flash this past weekend.
Oh, you have to tell us about those later. But John, what about you?
The thing that I think is the biggest plus to time travel is that it gives you the ability of taking like a 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional story, and it gives you a 4th dimension or a 3rd dimension, depending on where you are with the story. It gives you a different access to axis, not access, but an axis to play on. And
if you have a DeLorean, it gives you access.
Oh yeah, totally. And that's what I think is the best part is that when done right, it can add. I'm just going to keep going right past it, even though you're so proud of yourself.
Appreciate it.
God damn it.
Axis. You're back on track. Axis.
It gives you an access, a different set of access to play on. I think of movies like Tenet. Tenet has a kind of a time travel component to it. And the way they played with it was...
That's a good one.
What's that?
That's a good one. I forgot about that. That and Interstellar, I would say, are good.
Yeah,
good
both of those have
time travel. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, both of those have time travel aspects to it, and both of them do it in such a way that are wildly well thought out. And again, it just takes a story that has 3 dimensions and adds a 4th dimension in which you can really deepen those characters, really deepen the story, and then really hit those aha moments even harder.
And Interstellar specifically, I think, is a cool way to look at it because it uses time travel without time travel. right? We don't do time travel in Interstellar the way we think about time travel. Like, I'm going to get in a machine and go back to the past. Like, it doesn't work that way. It's using theoretical space and the theory of relativity to say, if I go away at the speed of light and come back at the speed of light, everybody here is going to age, but I'm going to be the exact same. You know, those concepts I think are more interesting than the machine that's going to go back to the dinosaur age or see Christ's birth or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some, you can retcon some bad story ideas as well. You know, especially if you're doing franchises and sequels, if time travel enters the picture, you can retcon some stuff. You can make fun of events, or you can make a series. What was the Stephen King one that was done?
11/22/63.
Yes, that one. You can play with historical events. There's a lot of things you can do in that respect. So you can take modern day characters and put them in historical context. You can have them, play with those events and see how they affect them. And, also, Troy was talking about the rules. Yeah, there's no similar rule. Like, the rules are different for every aspect. As long as you spell them out, whatever the rules for your particular project are, they can work as long as you adhere to them, right? There are really no rules to time travel because it's not really a thing. I mean, well, we'll talk about that in a minute if people believe in time travel, but as far as being a proven entity, it is not. So therefore, it is a fictional fantasy element. And you can inject whatever rules you want. You can make sure that it's science-based in some aspect, or you can just be as wonky as hell and just pull it out of your ass. Like, probably the most popular time travel movie of all time. That's very, very much what they do. Now, what about the negatives? What are the negatives of time travel? And I'm going to start with, I think I talked about retconning bad story ideas. I think that's super lame when they do it. Write better. But it can be used for that. What else? What else you got? What other negatives do you have to time travel?
You don't follow your own rules. That's always the big one. Like, you set up this whole, especially movies where you set up an entire 10, 20 minutes to all right, let me explain to you how this works. And then you're like, wait, but it didn't work like that 2 hours later. Like, those are super freaking annoying because, one, you wasted my time with exposition. Show me, don't tell me. That's why Tenet was so cool. Mm-hmm. And then, I think that there's also the issue of the negatives of time travel are they'll always get together in the end because mom comes back or dad comes back or Uncle Ben comes back. It's like that stuff drives me crazy. Like, when there's no stakes, that's when time travel becomes annoying.
I think when they go and get too convoluted with the rules, it really gets distracting.
Yep, that's a great word for it.
When and the reason why it doesn't work when they do the whole getting too convoluted with the rules is that you take the viewer and you give them this massive shopping list or CVS receipt worth of rules to mess with, and all of a sudden, they're tracking, okay, well, this can't happen because of this, and they can't happen, and all of a sudden they're no longer watching the movie, they're just lost in the rules that you set forward.
John clearly also doesn't have crafting as a hobby because a Michael's receipt or a Hobby Lobby receipt is way longer than a CVS one.
I don't know the answer to that. What a weird spin. That took a weird turn. Troy's like, I know exactly how long these receipts are, and we're going to make a point. John got that wrong. Jesus Christ. There's a lot of bad, I think, in time travel because of the convoluted that John's talking about. When the rules get super convoluted, or when they don't follow them, or it makes no freaking sense. I was at Ed Burns movie. It was based on a really good story. Sound of Thunder, right? That's the one. Sound of Thunder.
Yeah, that's the one.
Awful movie. Absolutely awful. Great story, just poorly executed because they just didn't know how to make time travel work in their own way in some respect. There was I can't remember the name of it, but there was a Jack Ripper one back in the 80s that I thought was fantastic. And, I wish
Is that the one with your guy, Red Reddington, in it?
Jack's back? That's Jack's. No, that is not the movie that I'm talking about. Dear God, man. I think it was Time After Time. Time After Time. That's what I'm talking about.
I like Jack's Back's better.
Are you fucking with me? Are you serious? Did you even see Jack's Back?
I did. I don't know why I like that movie so much, but I do.
Jesus Christ. Okay, well, anyway. Very few have done it well. I don't think many projects have really done it well. But I do want to ask, like, Troy, because you said you love time travel movies, and you talked about the pluses. Why do you love those so much? Because I know whenever there is a time travel property, I know you love Timeless, you love all this. So why do you love it so much? Like, why is this genre, I guess, so special to you in particular?
I think it's just because I'm a big learner. It's one of my like core principal values is to learn. Timeless, I thought, was a really great television series that took events in history and told them from a completely different point of view to get people educated on things that we probably never even would think about. Like one of the episodes was running into the person that made the first X-ray machine.
Mm-hmm.
And like just things like that are just lost to even educators today about that history. I think time travel gives us the ability to tell really good historical concepts that, where it may not be biographical or specifically, accurate or whatever, but it still gives you the ability to come back to a time and go, hey, this is what it was like in the Civil War, or this is what it was like in, Jesus's time, or what have you. Like, or this is what it could look like in the future. And just those thought processes and the way people think about time travel, I think opens up a whole other door of hope and possibility that, say, space travel did for people when they were seeing space travel in the 60s and 70s. So we obviously know we can go to space. We know we can obviously go under the ocean, yet not all the way to the bottom yet because we'll be crushed to death. But we're getting closer. But there's just so much out there to explore. So why not explore the future or the past? Because right now it kind of sucks.
All right, so best use and worst use. Well, actually, no, I forgot. I want to ask you guys before we move on. Do you believe such a thing is possible? And I don't mean, well, maybe. And do you really, in your heart of hearts, do you believe time travel is actually possible?
I don't know, man. There's plenty of Mandela effects out there right now that make me think that it has happened, and we're just suffering for it all. I'll give you an example. Name pizza rolls for me.
Totino's?
Did you just say Totino's?
Yeah, you said name pizza rolls for me.
Right. I grew up with those being Tostinos.
Isn't it Totino's?
It's Totino's, but
You also are dyslexic, so maybe you just saw the box wrong.
No, it was always Tostino's.
I'm not saying it to be
rolls.
mean. I'm just saying maybe you just read the box wrong.
No, I did not read the box wrong. It was always Tostino's, and or how about this? Kit Kats. Is there a hyphen in between Kit and Kat?
Yeah.
No, there isn't.
Now or then?
There's never been a hyphen.
Is there one now?
In the official Kit Kat brand, there is not a hyphen.
There's not a hyphen.
Okay, so I'm wrong. I mean, it's okay to be wrong too. I don't think that actually means time travel exists. That's a weird way to go. Is that how far we've come on the internet? We can't say we were wrong about anything. So now with time travel was the answer.
So the difference though on the Tostino's,
the election was stolen, wasn't it? God damn it.
The difference on the Tostino's point of view is that you could have like when you have Gucci, but instead of Gucci, it's like an extra C. So John was getting Totino's pizza rolls in Panama. He was just getting like a knockoff brand.
He was getting the white box.
All right. The Monopoly Man, does he have a monocle or not?
No, he does not.
Yeah, he does.
No, he does not. And I remember him always having a monocle.
Maybe they just changed the branding, man, because his eyesight got better. He got cataract surgery or something.
Nope. You're
not. Do you know whether sick at his age?
Right. I mean, he finally won a few rounds of his game enough to go get it.
He doesn't have one on the box, but there are pictures. But when you pass go, he's wearing a monocle. So yeah, we're both right. Bam! I'm finding pictures from the early days, and he's definitely got it. So yeah, time travel doesn't exist. His eyesight got better.
No, I'm still going to say this Mandela effect at this point.
I'm just saying.
And okay, so real quick, does everyone know what the Mandela effect is?
Well, it's about Nelson Mandela and how he affected change in his country. And he no. Okay. Damn it.
No. It is about Nelson Mandela, and what it is that there's a big group of people who believe Nelson Mandela died in prison.
What? He came out of prison.
Is this like flat earthers? Like there's a large group of people that believe the Earth is flat, therefore it is.
Nope. There's just as far as in the world, there's a huge amount of people who
believe,
distinctly remember
this happening,
seeing news articles about him dying in prison.
Well, there are a lot of people that come to believe things that aren't true. I mean, we've seen it in recent years.
You know what? I'm still going to go. You know what? I don't get really tinfoil helmet about a lot of things. This is the one thing I'm going to get.
So you think you believe time travel is possible?
I think I've seen evidence that we're living in a different timeline at this point.
Okay, Troy.
You're talking like people that think Curious George had a tail, but he never really had a tail.
Yeah.
And Looney Tunes is spelled actually Tunes, but people assume it's spelled Tunes because they're watching a cartoon.
Right.
Or people call it Jiffy peanut butter when it's not Jiffy because they're crossing their Skippy and Jif.
That's the one that I do remember correctly as Jif. So
right.
God, I thought it was Jiffy. See,
no,
that is me being wrong. It's okay. We as a society have collectively forgot how to admit that we're wrong. That's far more prominent than time travel. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that's more likely than the Mandela effect or the butterfly effect or any other effect.
Yeah, the Monopoly monocle is because people are confusing the Peanuts man versus the Monopoly man.
He wears a monocle.
Oh, would you stop looking it up and ruining it for me?
Just saying. In the game, he does wear a monocle I think. Yeah.
He does not.
Oh, no.
Not on the original board.
Okay. Never had a monocle. All right.
Never had a monocle.
Son of a bitch.
So what John is saying is that people are time traveling and fucking with people because that's what they're changing. Is the Mandela effect concept.
Well, I mean, they're obviously doing something else, and that something else is having a ripple effect to other small things, much like the butterfly effect.
So you think someone went back and hang on. So someone got a DeLorean or whatever device they found. They went back in time and they made sure to remove the monocle from the Monopoly guy.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I'm saying that they went back and they shot JFK and all of a sudden no monocle guy.
Okay.
It's a very accurate statement if you read 11/22/63.
Yeah.
See?
Shit.
Which was a work of fiction, just for the record.
All right, Troy, do you believe in time travel? You didn't answer me.
Come on, Troy. I know you got this.
Well, but this is a hard topic because there's a difference between I think there's three things. There's a difference between time travel and alternate universes and multiverses. I think those are three very separate concepts.
Well, I'm only asking time travel, the ability to go back in time of our current universe.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to sit there and say that we accidentally slipped into a alternate reality, I can have that conversation all day too. But we're having a conversation about time travel, so that's where I'm landing.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out because I do believe that deja vu exists, right? But is deja vu because somebody went back and did something in time that made me sense that deja vu through the time stream? Or was it the reflection from the multiverse or an alternate universe that caused the deja vu to happen? Also, I think it's more of the philosophical question for me because even if I were to be able to go back in time, I personally have not time traveled because in my line of existence, I have a start and an end. And when I go back in time, I'm still at the present from my perspective, even though I'm standing in someone else's past.
You are hurting my head.
And this is why time travel is difficult.
But do you think, just yes or no, do you think it exists? Is it possible to go back in time?
I don't think it's possible today to go back in time. I think the theoretical physics about it are possible. We just haven't figured it out yet.
Okay. I'll be quick. I don't think it's possible. I also don't think ghosts are real. And that pretty much covers it. I think so.
Ghosts are real.
And by the way, if you went 88 miles an hour, you would just be in an accident. It's dangerous. Don't do it.
especially if you drive into a photomatic.
Yeah, that's not good. And deal with, nuclear terrorists.
Which clearly means you time traveled if you're
Plutonium,
going 88
sorry.
miles an hour, because that only happened in the 80s.
All right, so best use and worst use of time travel and entertainment that is not Back to the Future 1. I guess you can use the sequels if you'd like to, but
I'll go first. Good options would be the 12 Monkeys television show. Probably one of the best uses of time travel I've ever seen.
Sticks the landing.
Sticks the landing very well. Absolutely. And sets up the rules very early that are not difficult to follow.
Okay.
There are 2 Stephen King properties, 11/22/63, both the TV show and the book, are excellent time travel stories about what happens, because when you go back in the past over and over and over again, the past actually becomes a character and tries to correct itself and stop you from making the change, which is a cool concept. Also, The Dark Tower is a time travel concept in a completely different, unique way, which I think is really fun.
I can see that.
Continuum, I thought, was a really fantastic concept on the time travel about in 2077, corporate Congress has taken over. There is no government. People go back in time because they want to prevent the corporate Congress from coming into existence. And unfortunately, one of the police of the future gets sucked back accidentally, leaving her family behind. And then how they resolve that at the end of the series with her family when she finally does get back to 2077, I think is a perfect example of why time travel shouldn't happen. And then one of probably the early ones that I think is really, really a great way to talk about time travel is the Christopher Reeve movie, Somewhere in Time. That
good movie.
That is such a gut-wrenching,
that's a good one.
Response to time travel in that one. It's so good. Those are my good ones.
Bad ones?
Bad ones. Wahlberg, Planet of the Apes. Stupid. On all accounts.
Yeah, agreed.
Especially the ending when he comes back to the future, thinks he's in his right place, but he's actually not in the right place.
It's awful.
Sometimes that works. Sometimes that doesn't work. That one didn't work. Timeline, horrible movie. Don't see it ever. And Felicity. I thought Felicity had a really, 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 really great 17th episode of the 4th season to wrap up the show. And then they had like 6 more episodes that was in this, well, what if Felicity didn't do that for the last 4 years? And it was like, what? And
that sounds horrible, actually.
It was dumb. It was dumb.
Okay. John, what do you got? I guarantee a timeline's going to show up on its best or something. I'm a big Paul Walker fan.
Don't you mess with Paul Walker. Also, don't forget, Jared Butler was on that one.
Oh, boy. That's too bad.
And Michael Sheen. So there. Anyhow, so as far as like my 2 options for best movies, I'm going to go with Looper. One of the things that I loved about the way they handled time travel about that is they just said, they literally said to the audience, don't think too much about it. It was the best way, I think, of explaining the time travel rules that I can think of, and I love how they handled that for sure. And then Edge of Tomorrow, I know it's just like another Groundhog's Day, but they did it in such a way that they found a way to actually make Tom Cruise a smarmy character who grows through the period of the movie, and I did appreciate everything about Edge of Tomorrow. Television shows, I can't go much further than to say Doctor Who, because Doctor Who does this whole timey-wiminess in ways where they are not really paying attention to rules or even making rules, because it just happens to be something that they go through, and they keep on adjusting things to make it alternate reality of time travel and or other things in regards to how they handle it. So again, you don't really have to think too much about it. You just have to be able to enjoy yourself and or enjoy a good family television show, which Doctor Who still is to this day. And I don't have many other television shows to go over. So my worst examples.
Hang on, before you move on, I want to say a listener reached out to us when I was throwing the topic out there to talk about Doctor Who, and this is Modern Who. Time travel laws that change depending on what the plot needs, writing a character out of history, but ignoring the 4D cause and effect issues. All Who time changed in the plot, but no indication of bigger changes, assuming this is the correct timeline. They were saying that they have an issue with how Doctor Who handles time travel. And this is from James H.
There's a rule in Doctor Who, which is that if the Doctor's been there, he can't make it. It means that it's written in history. So if he goes forward in time, he goes back in time. There's no ability to rewrite what happens in a single moment.
Okay. All right. Continue. I just want to bring it up. I don't know enough about Doctor Who to even have a conversation. So just saying.
Okay.
They said they don't like the rules.
There's a whole thing about constants, and this is I think where Lost gets it from. And speaking of Lost, as far as my television shows, Lost did a kind of a crappy job as far as time travel is concerned.
They really did. Also, Barnabas Frid on Twitter chimed in, said he was talking about Dark Shadows. They went back in time so much they missed with the whole plot line, basically explaining everything by Doctor Who logic, timey-wimey. So it sounds like several people feel like Doctor Who is kind of pulling their time travel out of their ass. You guys both watch Doctor Who.
Oh, they definitely do pull the time travel out of their ass. But it's written. It is written in the show as as an excuse to go through from one place to another. But again, like whenever they go into this deep discussion as far as how time travel works, the closest thing you get to an explanation is that when the Doctor is at a moment in time, that moment cannot change.
Okay.
So if he were to go to reverse time or something like that, he actually can't reverse time because he's already been at that moment. So he's moving forward, whereas everything is moving up, down, sideways, and left and right.
Okay. All right. Continue.
At some point, I do want to have a conversation with John about the Lost time travel stuff because I'm curious.
Let's come back to it now.
All right. Yeah. The way that they introduced time travel in that show came out of absolutely nowhere, and they are very unclear about how it works. And though I will agree with you that the show is a good show because of the character development and the character elements. Some of the things and some of the other elements to the show were a little weird, like time travel.
Yeah, why time travel existed on the show, that I'll give you. That was weird. However, when it was introduced, though, I thought they did it really well because of the way, like, they'd hold, especially that one episode when, what was it? Richard comes out of the jungle because he knows that John Locke fell because John Locke, well, not John Locke, but the Man in Black told Richard, like, go help John Locke because he's injured or whatever. Like, I thought, like, the way that they timed all of that stuff, like, just made a lot of sense. And the fact that they were actually there at the Dharma Initiative and caused their own accident, I thought that was cool too. But the concept that there was actually needed to be time travel in the series, yes, I agree with you that that's weird.
Wouldn't the constant kind of be time travel? The episode.
The concept is actually very similar to, like, the Somewhere in Time concept, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the best episodes of television ever.
Oh yeah, tearjerker every time.
Right. No, that is a good episode of television.
Great,
I'll give you that.
Fantastic episode.
But also choice wrong. So I get to flex those Aaron muscles and say things that.
I'm not wrong. I agree with you. I think adding time travel to the show was weird, but they did it as a pretty good way when they did add it in.
And he's saying no. He disagrees. All right. What else you got, John? Negatives?
We'll see. As far as movies are concerned, Timeline is one of the movies that I am going to put on my list of movies that don't do time travel very well. It is convoluted, weird. It doesn't make any sort of sense. Anyone who wants to go back to the period in time that they went back to is absolutely insane. I don't get it. And then we've already mentioned this earlier, but Sound of Thunder, which is a movie that I tend to call, hey, look what we can do with a green screen.
And then not do it. And then completely say, we can't actually do it. Huh.
And then say, yeah, exactly. There's nothing. If the effects were anywhere near as good as they thought the effects were, or going into this, maybe something cool could have happened with this, but like the quality of the whole movie, it goes right up there with like Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow, which is another movie which is like, hey, look what we can do with green screen. Only they pulled it off better because they had a aesthetic that was easier to reproduce for the equipment they were working with at the time. Mm-hmm. So whatever. So those are my two movie choices.
All right. I will tell you, I narrowed it down to just one each. That's pretty simple for me. But since you guys threw in some honorable mentions, I'll mention some too. Boss Level, I think, is a fantastic use of time travel that no one really ever talks about. It's got Frank Grillo as this special forces agent, and he's kind of trapped in this loop, but he basically has to die over and over again until he can figure out what the hell is going on. And it's like Groundhog Day, but good and kick ass. The action set pieces are great. It's a Joe Carnahan movie who did The A-Team. It's on Hulu. If you haven't seen it, this is definitely a movie that you should watch before Disney does another purge. So I recommend it.
I'm surprised you went Joe Carnahan equal to A-Team versus Joe Carnahan tied to 24.
Because A-Team's a great movie and that's his own thing. So,
okay.
That's why. And
is that also not the plot to Edge of Tomorrow though? They die at the end and they have to come back every time.
A little bit, yeah. It's done way different. It's not done like Edge of Tomorrow. Edge of Tomorrow is like a universe-ending kind of deal, and this is just this dude's life. That's all it is. And it's also, honestly, I like it more than Edge of Tomorrow. I think Frank Grillo just crushes that particular role. So
because in Edge of Tomorrow there is no tomorrow. That's
sure.
Going with the wind.
Sure. And this movie doesn't need Emily Blunt carrying a lot of the weight that Tom Cruise can't carry. So there's that one. There's Boss Level. As far as a fun reference, but overall, and I will say on the other side, bad Groundhog Day. Don't like it. Think it sucks. Okay, coming back. So my favorite of all time, the best use of time travel in entertainment, and that's movies and TV, doesn't matter. The series finale of Quantum Leap is probably my favorite use because, and there's a lot of great episodes where Sam goes back in time and he lives the life of a black person, of a mentally handicapped person, of several different instances where these are great episodes, but the series finale dares to let the hero lose. I thought that was fantastic and a very, very big and bold choice where you do get closure for your supporting character, for Al. Al gets his closure, right? With Beth and all of that. But Sam never gets home. Like he never, that's just never resolved. He's just ping-ponging all over and they lose him, basically. That's the rest of his life. And I think that was an amazing choice to make. What do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Don't agree with me? What?
100% agree with you. That's one of those chef kiss moments in television where they actually make him resigned into living this life of constantly setting right what once went wrong. It's one of the things that I don't like about the new show is because it kind of dilutes the messaging of the original show, and they're trying to do the same kind of messaging and they just can't seem to do it in the same sort of way. They're soft handing it too much, and they're ringing too many dog whistles when it comes to what they're doing. On top of, it seems to be manufactured much in the same way a lot of shows are, which is to have this very generic feel to it with music moments that just have dark and ominous tones. But one of the cool things I do like about the new show is that Ernie Hudson's character is one of the people that Sam jumped into, and that's why he's involved. And I thought that was awesome, especially the character that he is.
Cool. Call me when they come close to that closing scene with the series, because then maybe I'll check it out. I'm not checking it out until then.
Yeah. No, right now I would say that you don't need to watch it.
Okay. I would also, other recommendations, I think About Time is a very, very good time travel movie. The Atom Project. Actually, I'll give you two Ryan Reynolds, The Atom Project and Deadpool 2. Deadpool 2 probably makes the most humorous use of time travel ever. The Stingers, I think where they just retcon their entire movie by some wonky ass time travel logic is amazing to me. I just think that's great. And you go into the and Deja Vu. That's a fun one too. If you ever saw that one, Denzel Washington.
Oh my God, I rewatched that one so many different times.
Did you?
I always watch that one. Whenever that and Basic, for whatever reason, I'll sit down and rewatch those two a lot.
There's quite a few they're pretty good. What was the Chris Pratt movie? Tomorrow War.
Tomorrow War.
Prime. I like that.
That's good.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. Negative. The worst one. I mean, Son of Thunder. You already talked about. You already kind of stole my thunder there a little bit, but Back to the Future Part 2. Not the first one. First one's perfect. Part 2, freaking awful. I hate Part 2. when I do a rewatch, I just watch it because I feel like you have to watch the third one, and I like the third one. But I think Back to the Future 2 is just abysmal. I don't like anything about it, except the hoverboard, maybe, I guess. Okay. All right. There we go. Bam. You can share your thoughts on this episode or anything else in our Facebook group, Twitter, Back by Popcorn, or at the HollywoodOutsider.com. We're going to go into some reviews. We'll be pretty quick here because we're going to get to The Flash. But, John, Extraction 2, this is a movie where it's just Chris Hemsworth being all Hemsworthy, just, flexing those biceps and blowing shit up. Back from the brink of death. I mean, he was pretty much dead. Commando Tyler Rake. It's one of those, feels like an 80s name where they're trying to make him sound more badass than he is, but whatever. Commando Tyler Rake embarks on a dangerous mission to save a ruthless gangster's imprisoned family. This is on Netflix. It just released recently. The first one had some of the best action scenes, though the story was lacking of the last couple of years. What did you think about the story this time? I mean, the story seems pretty much like a Schwarzenegger movie from the 80s, like I said.
Chris Hemsworth is doing a really great job as far as, we talk about how he is with Thor and where he's kind of a boob and some of the other comedy stuff that he has done where he's great with comedy. Here, he is absolutely just dark and brooding, and but at the same time, he does it with a way that has a kind of hidden heart to it that I really love. And it is an 80s action movie, and you sit there and say that they're trying to make him sound more badass than he really is. No, his character is a badass.
So what about the action? Because that's what people want to know. Man.
So one of the most impressive scenes from the first one was a single take car chase.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, it was wonderful.
Which was fantastic. Yeah. They try to reproduce that several different times, several different ways in this one, and each one of them is pretty effective. And the reason why they're effective is because this single take, everything's moving so quickly. Everything is just, the camera's coming in and out. People were flying in and out of different places, getting shot. And it's all done in different single takes, as far as different scenes. I mean, not like there's different single takes, but different scenes in which they do this in. And it is equally as effective as the first one. And they really just up the ante when it comes to the action. I was so entrenched in the action of this that I was really just kind of holding my guts together so tightly because I was so worried about what was happening, and that doesn't happen very often, but I was just invested and I almost twisted myself in knots just watching this.
Oh, that's good. Is there really a scene that's 20 minutes long? The single take is 20 minutes long. I think it was, what's the number I heard?
Yeah, there's really a scene that's 20 minutes long. It's nuts. They, like I said, they really take that single take concept and they push it as far as they possibly can.
So if $10 is full price of admission, what do you give this one?
I give this one $7. This is pretty great.
Oh wow! Did you like it better, or is the first one same?
I like it better in the respect of you're not. There's other characters involved in this, and those other characters add a depth to Chris Hemsworth's character, Tyler Rake, that makes him much more personable. So I sort of like it better for those reasons. He's not just the one-man killing machine that he was in the first movie. He's more than that.
Excellent. All right. And recent recommendation. We're going to talk about The Flash here in a second. Any recommendations? I do want to mention I did see The Little Mermaid finally. I think it's a very well done replication of, or live action remake, however you want to call it, of The Little Mermaid, Disney's Little Mermaid. I think Halle Bailey, who's the star who plays Ariel, is a star. I mean, she has a wonderful voice. She does a wonderful job with the role. She's very charismatic. She's captivating. She holds a screen. I feel like there are a few new songs from Lin-Manuel Miranda and his team, and they do a very good job. There is one song that Eric sings that's atrocious, and I can't remember the name of it because I can't stand that song, and I don't care. Melissa McCarthy does a wonderful job as Ursula. I think she has a blast. I wish she would do more big-budget movie making and less things with her husband, because she's so much more talented than I feel like she ever gets to show. And, I would definitely recommend it. I think it's a solid $7. I had a great time watching it, and I was, pleasantly surprised with how it turned out, because I kind of revere the original Little Mermaid. I love that film. I watched it with my daughter throughout her childhood, and it's very special to me. So to me, don't mess with perfection, and they do a very good job of it. So I would recommend Little Mermaid. What about you guys? Any other recommendations you can think of?
I finally had a chance to sit down and watch Hypnotic, that Aaron likes to call low budget Inception.
Yep, Walmart Inception.
Walmart Inception is what he likes to call it. I wouldn't be that harsh on that movie. It's
not harsh. It's just true. It's basic kind of concept of Inception, but without any budget.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit there and say that. I will say that this is a lot more in line with Firestarter as far as the story is concerned, only with a happier ending. So, I don't remember what Aaron's score was because I wasn't given homework enough to go look for that, but I would give it a good $6 for that movie.
That's what I gave it, actually, $6.
All right, that's great.
See? Anything, Troy, you want to recommend before we let John go?
Star Trek: Strange New Worlds season 2.
Jesus Christ!
No, actually, over on Apple TV, Apple TV Plus is a show called Silo.
I keep hearing about this.
It has been really, 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 really well done. The first 2 episodes I've seen
just get renewed.
I'm 3 episodes in and I'm hooked.
Yeah, it's the next Severance for Apple TV Plus, I think.
And I will add, Joe Pickett is on Paramount Plus. The first season I really, really kind of loved. It's very Westernish, but the second season is coming out now, and I haven't watched it yet. I'm just recommending it because I'm a fan of the first season, and I hope people find it and we get more because I really, really do enjoy the show. There you go. Now we're going to talk about Flash. John, we're going to let you go. Okay? Are you okay with that?
I'm good with that.
I think he time traveled out. Oh, there he is. He's back.
There he is. Okay. He turned his mic off.
And he's gone again.
I turned my mic off.
Well, say goodbye, you son of a bitch.
Bye, everybody.
All right, Troy, just you and me. John's gone. Bye, bitch. So, The Flash. We're finally talking about The Flash. We're going to talk very briefly, spoiler-free. And
oh, wait, no, it's not that Flash. It's a different Flash.
It's a different Flash.
Savior of the universe.
Well played, though. So let's talk about this. The last official film of the DCEU. Apparently, they're saying Aquaman 2 might still be part of the new DCU because the DC Extended Universe is now it's going to be just the DC Universe. James Gunn's over this whole world. The Flash was meant to be the last of the DCEU with the possibility that it could continue, but they definitely kind of tweaked the ending, which they had a very, very secret ending that was just recently reshot before the movie came out to make it possible to change to either make a sequel or don't make a sequel, depending on how this one did. And Ezra Miller is the star of the Flash and is a very troubled actor. We've talked about that in the past, so we're going to skim right by that. You can find those episodes if you want to relive that. We're just going to talk about the movie. We're going to do spoiler-free, and then we'll get into some spoilers. So worlds collide when the Flash uses his superpowers to travel back in time to change the events of the past because he's trying to save his mom. His mother died when he was young. His father was convicted of the crime, and he knows his father is innocent, but he can't prove it. However, when his attempt to save his family inadvertently alters the future, he becomes trapped in a reality in which General Zod from Man of Steel has returned, threatening annihilation. That's right, Michael Shannon's back, even though he bitches about franchises in every interview he ever does. With no other superheroes to turn to, the Flash looks to coax a very different Batman out of retirement, played by Michael Keaton, no surprises in every damn ad, and rescue an imprisoned Kryptonian he believes is Superman, albeit not the person that he's looking for, because it's really Supergirl. And I think she does great here, too. So spoiler-free, just Troy, overall thoughts, The Flash. Do you think it was lived up to the hype? I mean, do you think it's getting a fair rap right now? People are kind of trashing it because the box office didn't do well, but the critic score and the audience score are both fairly high. So what say you?
I thought that the first 20 minutes drug a little bit. And then once we arrive in the universe where Zod is back, the last 2 hours is just nonstop fun and excitement and action. And I totally had an absolutely great time. Laughed out loud a few times, clapped a few times. There's definitely joy in the movie. I didn't think anything about Ezra's issues, right? During the course of the movie, I just watched the movie for what the movie was. And the movie's pretty freaking great. I mean, it's It's obviously pulling from the Flashpoint comic in a lot of ways. There's more than enough references to the Flashpoint comic in the story. So if you've seen the Flashpoint comic, you pretty much know where this movie's going. But at the end of the day, I came out of it going like, yeah, like Flash is cool. Way better than Green Lantern. Let's do more. And I think at the end of the day, it really actually is an interesting inflection point. Wink, wink. Where this has happened, because I feel like from these events, if this is the end of the DCEU and then the DCU is starting, it's still technically all DC, because the changes that could happen from this movie could lead to a whole new universe, and it would actually fit all together, which would be a brilliant stroke of genius actually, and may put DC out on top because Marvel's been sucking so bad lately.
Yeah, but box office wise, it's not holding up. And I will say, I think a major factor that, especially now that we've had Shazam 2 flop, this flopped, and Shazam 2 is a sequel to a very popular movie that people liked. I think people know that the DCEU is being rebooted, and they just don't care about these movies now. I feel like that was probably a miscalculation on James Gunn and DCU's Warner Brothers, David Zaslav, Peter Safran, all those people behind all these choices. I think that was a very poor miscalculation on their part to announce the world was dead before those movies came out, because I think that really killed a lot of people's interest in them.
I don't disagree with you, but I still went anyway because I knew the people that were going to be in the movie, so I wanted to see those people one last time.
Sure, but I also don't think The Flash was ever that popular. I mean, yes, I know people that love the comics and watch the show. They think he's super popular. I don't think a lot of people are just crazy about going to see The Flash. And that's why I think it didn't do awful for the first movie for a character people really didn't love. And Ezra Miller kind of shit all over the movie too by his antics. They had a lot of bad press for this thing.
But there's so much of this movie that's not Flash. I think it's true.
I agree with that.
That's what people are going to miss out on if they don't go see this.
I enjoyed it. I'm just saying why I think it didn't do very well. That's all I'm saying.
And I don't know if this is a DC problem because, we talked earlier, right? Pixar has the same problem with Elemental not doing so good. I think people just don't understand. It's hard out there right now. Like, there are people that can't get jobs, even though the unemployment rate is supposedly low. The inflation is super, super high. I mean, people are just choosing to spend their money differently right now because they're just not sure what's happening next.
It's very possible.
And if I can wait for it to be on a streaming service I'm already paying for, then I might do that right now because I don't have $15 to go see it on a big screen.
And if it isn't going to matter because we're going to get all new DC stuff in a year or two, is it really that? I think that we'll know for sure. Well, Blue Beetle is definitely part of DCU. That's been announced by the director, that it will be basically the first, even though it wasn't written or greenlit by James Gunn and Peter Safran, the new heads of DCU, it's still going to count as part of the new DCU. So that one could definitely lead to more films, and they want that to do well. And I think that actually looks like a very good movie. And, Aquaman 2, I think, will be the test on what happens to Momoa and Gal Gadot if she does stick around. I think if Aquaman 2 does well, there's a chance that they could build off that. But they need a win bad. They do need a win. I give this one $6, by the way. I enjoyed it. But I had some real issues with the special effects, which I'll talk about in the spoiler-free portion.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They are very bad in spots, like 90s bad. So I'll get to that. But I do want to say it is an enjoyable movie. I actually don't like Michael Keaton's Batman that much, but I loved him here. I feel like he really has grown into that role, and it really fits well. And he wears it like a glove. I think Sasha Calle as Supergirl is very, very good. I would definitely watch her do something else. I love seeing a lot of the cameos that came in here, and some of it I didn't care for, which I'll talk about in the spoiler section. So let's just go ahead and go there. But there you go. We both liked it. It's worth going to see if you are a fan of the DC universe as a whole, whether you're a fan of the DCEU or not, just the comics, the characters, whatever. It's worth seeing. Now let's get into spoilers. So you've been warned.
I would have given it a 7, but I knocked it down because of the special effects and the 20 minutes in the front.
Gotcha.
So I gave it 6.50.
You just went down because you said like 7 a minute ago, I thought.
Yeah, no, I didn't say. You said 6. I get to say.
Okay.
You just cut me off. It's
I'm
fine.
pretty sure you said it before.
I'm used to
Listen to the tape, people. But now we're going into spoilers. So it's wide open. Okay, so let's start with the effects. And, that was the biggest problem for me is the CGI. There's a thing, and I'm assuming you've seen the movie if you're still listening to this. So when he's in his time world where he's doing his spin and he's trying to decide which portion of time he's going to go in,
the sphere.
Look, what is it called?
I think it's called the sphere.
Okay,
the time sphere.
Time sphere, whatever. Looks awful. Absolutely awful. It looks like 90s video game effects. Just bad. I think the actual representation of the other worlds where you see the cameos, some fun cameos, man. Helen Slater's back as Supergirl. You get finally get Nick Cage in the Superman costume. That's kind of awesome. You get a little Adam West.
Reeve is back.
Christopher Reeve is back. You get a lot of love there. On the same token, it looked
CG is terrible.
Terrible. Worse than Paul Walker glowing angel-y in Fast 7. Terrible. Just terrible. Whose idea was that? And the director is trying to go out and justify it in every interview he can. Andy Muschietti. And I like him as a director. He did the It movies. I think he's a very talented guy. But all the special effects look like shit. Just absolute shit.
The other worlds, I would say the special effects look like shit. I would say in the time sphere itself, I could make a case where time isn't exactly clear. So the fuzziness or non-clarity or wonkiness of the special effects inside of the time sphere from Barry's point of view could be a conversation about how time is just distorted, and that could have been an artistic choice. I'm not saying that's what it was. I'm saying you could make the argument for it. But the other worlds where the cameos were, those were bad.
And especially that's supposed to be your biggest nostalgic moment, right? That's your big moment. That's your Spider-Man No Way Home moment.
Yeah, when Christopher Reeve gets focused on for so long, it was like, and then the camera pans around him. It was fine when it was straight on. But then when the camera pans around behind Christopher Reeve's lookalike, that's when you're like, okay, I can clearly tell this is CGI and not Christopher Reeve pulled out of something else and then green screened into this. Mm-hmm. Which they could have done, I'm sure. Just like plucked them out of one movie and put them in another, and Photoshop layer, boom, you're done.
It's like, did you guys just think of this like 3 months ago? Why do these effects? Why do they look so bad? I don't understand. I don't understand. But
it's the best Nick Cage has ever looked.
He looked like Con Air in a Superman suit.
He looked totally like, I saw that. I was like, dude, it's like Con Air Superman. That's awesome.
Oh my God. Don't
touch the bunny.
And you have all those cameos and it's supposed to be this glorious moment. And really the movie loses me completely there. I was like, wow, this is not good. And then they have the moment with him and his mom where he basically allows her to die and stops trying to save her. And I do think that was probably the best, the moment that saved the movie for me, because the movie was trending down at that ending. And that moment really brought it back to life for me. Such a beautiful moment. And that just shows that you don't always need special effects bonanzas to do this. Sometimes just a small moment will really carry the movie a long way. God. What about those cameos? There's so many cameos in this. I mean, you got Ben Affleck. You got what did you think of the George Clooney ending? The surprise mega ending.
I loved it. I laughed. So I was like, no way. And I stood up and I was like, that's brilliant. I hate George Clooney as Batman, but in that moment to do you're not actually on your world, buddy, or you're not in your time, buddy reveal, because I usually hate those, like the Planet of the Apes with Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, yeah.
I can't stand when they do that 90% of the time. I thought this was a perfect, because I was waiting like, why did they bring back Michael Keaton but not George Clooney? Because I could understand why you didn't bring back Val Kilmer, but why didn't you bring back George Clooney? And then when George Clooney shows up at the end, I was like, okay, you got me. I'm good. That was pretty funny.
That was great.
But I was pleasantly surprised to see Gal show up in this. Like I was like, oh, Wonder Woman's here. Nice.
Yeah, and they're both acting like idiots around her.
Yeah.
Like absolute idiots. She still is my Wonder Woman as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I think she's there for 3 minutes, and it's probably my favorite moment in the first hour. Just seeing her again, totally. I'm like, oh, I miss you so much. I miss you. I want another movie.
You could me. It's fine. What?
Oh my God. That was wrong. So What else?
Hey, she did it in the second movie. I'm just stating fact.
Understand. The other cameos, I mean, you got Affleck back, you've got Keaton. Well, that's not really a cameo, but so what did you think of?
Yeah, because we knew Keaton was we knew Keaton was coming.
Yeah, we knew he was coming. So any other big cameos that really stood out for you? You got Jason
I
Momoa.
loved Keaton in this.
Well, hang on. Let's come back to him. Jason Momoa and the Stinger at the end. Did you like that bit?
I could have give or taken that one.
Same. I didn't really get much out of that. I mean, I thought it was kind of funny.
I think there was something important about that with why he took his ring. That's what I think. There's something about him taking his ring was the thing that was like, okay. And then I was trying to remember in Flashpoint if like the Justice League goes away and then this is when it really becomes the Justice Society because there's this whole changeover and that's when Hawkman and Black Adam and people start getting brought into the Justice Society.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just trying to think back through the comic book timeline to see if that is kind of what he was doing here, was like disbanding the Justice League by taking his ring.
So how about, you were talking about Keaton. Let's go back to Keaton. Now we'll talk about the main performances. What'd you think about Keaton?
I thought it was great. I mean, at first...
You a big Batman fan of the 80s, of his Batman?
Yeah, like I love the first Batman, Penguin. The second one was like, the story was okay, but Keaton was still great. I always thought Keaton was the best Bruce Wayne of the modern movies, right? You don't touch Adam West, right? Adam West is Adam West. But of the modern stuff, I thought he was still the best Bruce Wayne. Maybe Affleck could rival him as a Bruce Wayne, but he at least had that like I'm rich feel to him. And he just felt like the comic book character. He felt like a good Adam West replacement if Adam West couldn't do it, versus Clooney and Val Kilmer and even Batfleck later on. Christopher Nolan Batmans, I think those are great, right? Those were obviously spot on with Christian Bale, but which is disappointing that Christian Bale wasn't in this.
He's probably like, I don't need to.
But yeah, Michael Keaton at first, I thought it was actually Alfred, to be honest, because Alfred would have been the one living at the mansion and the scraggly hair and then the ninja skills and everything. And I was like, wow, Alfred's got moves in this timeline. And then when he finally stops long enough for the hair to move away, I was like, oh shit, that's Michael Keaton. That's awesome. Stunt coordinators rule.
Yeah, he did pretty well. I mean, he's got a pretty obvious wig and beard, and I still think even that worked for him. And he's just, I mean, it's honestly, I think he's the coolest he's been in the role. He just felt so fun. And I was not a fan of the 80s Batman. I liked the movies, but I didn't love Keaton as Batman. So here, I really grew to love him.
His performance is probably what Rian Johnson was going for with the Luke Skywalker issue of, I'm not really into this whole Jedi thing anymore, but I still want to help out. I really think Michael Keaton did a really great job of the, like, I don't really want to do this, but he's still spying on Barry the entire time. And I'm really kind of interested in getting back in the suit, but I don't really want to, so there was that kind of push and pull. But then when we got back in the suit and they go to break out, I always forget if it's Kara El. I think it's Kara El, right? Supergirl. I thought that whole sequence was great. The way he's flying around on the cape and using the tools, and he like embodied Batman in that moment. I was just like, yeah, that's my Batman. I like that Batman.
Yeah, he was really good. Really, really good. Now, what did you think about Sasha Calle as, I hope I'm saying that right, as Supergirl?
Not enough screen time. I don't feel like she was around long enough to like get attached to her, but the parts that she was in, I really liked her understanding, like she's just like, screw this place and takes off, but then understands, through her, overwhelmedness of the sound of people and just trying to acclimate her space again, that she comes back and helps Barry finish the experiment to get Barry's powers back because he rescued her. So she's returning the favor. So that loyalty concept of superheroes really shown in that moment. Overall, the battle sequences she has with Zod, I felt like she had too much rage against Zod. Like there wasn't like a reason for her to be that mad at him the way she was coming across trying to do the fight sequences. And I don't know if that was a matter of writing or if that was her performance specifically. But all in all, like I would totally watch a Supergirl movie with her in it. She was captivating the entire time.
I would definitely watch one. I agree with you on not enough screen time. I've seen so many people go, oh, she's phenomenal. She's like makes the movie. And I don't know what they're watching because she's in it for 5 minutes. So I like her and
Gal
I
Gadot
enjoyed
made
her.
the movie at 20 minutes in.
Who did?
Gal Gadot.
Yes.
Wonder Woman made the movie 20 minutes in.
1,000%. 1,000%.
That got me through that first 20 minutes.
I like the opening. The baby shower. Come on. That's funny. So Ezra Miller, okay, troubled guy, very, very troubled. He's got his personal issues aside. What do you think about his performance? So here he's got two versions of Barry that he's playing. He's playing Barry Allen and then Barry Allen again. And Iris West is in here too, but she's
older versus younger.
Yeah, well, kind of. Yeah, that's true. But different universes too. And one has a mom, one doesn't have a mom. I haven't really loved Ezra Miller as the Flash and anything. I thought he was fine. I liked him in Justice League. I didn't love him. And here there are moments where I think he's very good, and there are moments where, like the younger version, I think is just annoying as shit. And I know it's supposed to be like that's the whole point, right? But it never feels anything less than kind of forced to me.
Well, yeah, but because he's supposed to be 18 years old and a screw up and,
right,
black sheep of the family and everything. So he acts a little bit over the top dorky to make that work. But by the end of the movie, I think that character really comes into his own because it's that character that wants to just keep going and keep going and keep going and doesn't understand the gravitas of what's happening in that inflection point. And then obviously creates the future version of himself that caused the problem to begin with, knocking Barry into the timeline in the first place. So I think the two different versions of Barry and seeing Ezra do those two different versions, especially when he's basically having to fight with himself to make them understand, hey, we can't fix it. This is where we have to just put it back the way it was. I think there was a really good gravitas between the two of them where I felt that they were two different people.
I do agree with that.
But by the end he got there. The beginning, yeah, the two Barrys were kind of freaking annoying when they're in the house and the bedroom and Bruce Wayne's Batcave, and
they did get there. And what did you think overall with Ezra's performance?
It's great. I was captivated the entire time. Like there's nothing that I would say, especially. You didn't think
he forced a lot of jokes though? I feel like they're just jamming joke after joke after joke, and only about half of them land.
I think that's the writing, though. I don't think that's
probably true. Sure,
that's Ezra's writing. Yeah, they're trying to be more funny for the younger generation because Flash isn't stoic Superman and dark Batman,
and they're trying not to be dark for sure.
Yeah, they're trying to get the Shazam feel to it because it feels more flashy of a character like Shazam or Black Adam. And I really felt like we'll call him Barry Prime. I felt like Barry Prime really understood the gravitas of the situation and was really listening to Bruce and the whole, multi-threads. And there's times where all these threads may run side by side and there's times where they cross, but there's always these times where they all intersect. And I think he did a really good job growing up himself as Barry Prime in mentoring younger Barry, through the use of the powers and how to make it happen. And they became a good team towards the end. Until hubris gets in the way.
Is there anything you want to say before we close up shop about The Flash?
Go see it. I mean, definitely go see it on a big screen. I mean, it's a spectacle for sure. I mean, it's got traditional Zack Snyder slow-mo. It's got ridiculous special effects. It's got, really good heart moments, especially towards the end. It's not as bad as people think. It's probably actually one of the better DC movies since one. Yeah, it's probably the better one since Wonder Woman the original came out.
There's some Snyder-ish things there, I guess, with the slow motion, but it's more Marvel than DC, I would say, and typical Marvel than typical DC. I think it leans more that kind of superhero movie. Does it have a whole lot of flash, bangy, bangy? Yeah, it does. A lot of a big glowy thing, sure. But the plot is a little bit more complicated. It's definitely, more multiverse related. I am sick of the whole concept there, sure. But on the same token, I think this is a fun blend of a lot of things. And honestly, I would put this closer to great if the CGI just... Seriously, when you go see it, I do agree, go see it in a theater. It's worth seeing. It's a great spectacle piece. On the same token, the effects are bad in places. Some of the effects are great. Some of the effects are great. Like that opening set piece you don't like, I really like the opening. I thought the opening was fun as hell. There's a whole saving the babies thing that I think is brilliant.
Yeah, the opening is fun. Then they get with Gal Gadot and Batfleck and everybody, and they're talking on the bridge. There's just a sequence there for like the next 15 minutes that just felt like, all right, let's go. Come on, let's go.
I think that's your brain. You can't do slow moments. You're just like, go, go, go.
I can only do slow moments if they make me cry.
Oh, man. The moment with his mom at the end. I'm such a mama's boy. God damn it. Oh, Jesus. And, I liked how...
I really wish his...
Go ahead.
I really wish his mom's name was Martha.
See, there's you. I'm trying to talk, and you gotta keep talking just to get your Martha joke in there. I truly liked how the villain is really himself. That was a nice twist to the story.
Kind of called that, but...
Yeah, I did too, but I still liked that it was there. What I didn't like Zod. I don't like Michael Shannon that much. I feel like he's pretty one note, in my opinion, especially the last few years.
I liked his the henchman, the female.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was good. Yeah, she was fun.
Yeah, like if this was like a multi-dimensional thing, I would have said like have her be Zod, just for the change up.
Yeah, just to get some fresh blood in there. And I do like Iris West. I just don't think Kiersey Clemons was really given much to do here. So she's kind of a quick love interest. Oh, and I like the Alfred cameo and Barry's dad. Ron Livingston is a very charming actor. Tamara Morrison popping up as Tom Curry, and he's got the bad wife because he didn't get the sea goddess wife. I mean, a lot of that stuff was pretty funny. So, and
there's a lot of good in the movie.
George Reeves pops up here. A lot of people are pissed about that. He was the original Superman, really. So
yeah,
he should be here. If you're gonna have cameos, should be here. Honestly, I'm kind of bummed Grant Gustin doesn't pop up at some point in that end. I thought that was kind of an insult to him. He deserved to be in there.
And just because we said it, and we have some influence, super Con Air, make it happen.
I would totally watch. You make a Con Air sequel, but he's wearing the super suit the whole time. I'm in. Or just make him get that hair again and come back in that super suit. I'm in again. I'm in. I would watch that Superman movie. That would get me excited for DC. Whoop.
His clothes get blown off the plane or something, so it's the only thing available is a kid's costume.
And the whole plot of the movie is him getting a bunny. That's it. All right, that's going to do it. We're done. Thanks for listening if you listened this far. And remember, the next time you head to a theater or stream comfortably on your couch because you don't want to go outside or spend the money, buy popcorn. But I agree. See this in a theater. And then see Indiana Jones when that comes to theaters because God knows we need more of those, right?
That movie is going to flop.
You shut your whore mouth. Shut it.
If flop means financial success, it is going to flop. I think it's going to be a great movie.
It sounds
like Elemental. I'm sure it's a great movie.
It sounds like you're rooting for it.